Nerds and ladies, welcome to the Junior Classics.
Hi there, I'm Sir Bradley Hasse, a teller of borrowed tales. Join me as I share stories of courage, adventure, and wonder. But don't take my word for it. You can find out for yourself on today's Junior Classic. Welcome, Junior Scholars. I am Sir Bradley Hasse, guardian of the written word and your guide through the Junior Classics. Our mission is to safeguard the classics and inspire children to a love of good reading and a real and lasting interest in Western literature and history. If this is your first time listening, thank you for joining us, and a very special thank you to my loyal listeners who tune in each and every episode, and especially my Patreon supporters who help keep the show going and growing. If you like what we are doing, creating stories for the good of your kids, consider supporting me on Patreon for $5 a month. You can also write me a letter at P.O. Box 1153, Crown Point, Indiana 46308. Send me your art projects, tell me what you like about the Junior Classics, and I'd like to shout out to Amelia from Pennsylvania. Thank you for your very kind letter. Your bookmarks and Nordic activity book is on the way. Check out the Junior Classics YouTube channel to see me open your letter. Now, today's a little bit of a special episode. I have a special treat for you. This week, our family is on a summer vacation to one of my favorite spots in the world, a cozy little cottage nestled in the woods about a 10-minute walk from the beach of Lake Michigan. And I've been saving a story that was generated by a wonderful family that I met earlier this year that listens to the Junior Classics. Miss Andrea is a wife and mother of 3 beautiful and very sharp children. Miss Andrea also grew up in the country of Romania, and she is sharing one of her favorite stories that her grandmother used to tell to her with us. She even translated the story herself from Romanian into English. This is what Miss Andrea had to say. Blessings. We are a family that listens to the wonderful stories you've been sharing through the Junior Classics podcast. While we were enjoying some of the tales, it came to me one of my favorite stories heard from my great-grandma, The Honest Woodcutter. You might have heard of it before. But in my search, I found this classic story only halfway through. So I decided to translate the other half from Romanian to English and share with you the entire story before it is lost. I did my best to translate, trusting that you can modify some parts in case it is needed. So Miss Andrea, this is so cool. Your translation was wonderful. And we're going to jump right in to The Honest Woodcutter. I think this is a really cool to have somebody send this to us, so I hope we all enjoy it. The Honest Woodcutter, translated by Andrea Sopt. Once upon a time, out in the green, silent woods, near a rushing river that foamed and sparkled as it hurried along, there lived a poor woodcutter who worked hard to make a living for his family. Every day he would trudge into the forest with his strong, sharp axe over his shoulder. He always whistled happily as he went, because he was thinking that as long as he had his health and his axe, he could earn enough to buy all the bread his family needed. One day, he was cutting a large oak tree near the riverside. The chips flew fast at every stroke, and the sound of the ringing axe echoed through the forest so clearly you might have thought a dozen woodchoppers were at work that day. By and by, the woodman thought he would rest for a while. He leaned his axe against the tree and turned to sit down. But he tripped over an old, gnarled root, and before he could catch it, his axe slid down the bank and into the river. The poor woodman gazed into the stream, trying to see the bottom, but it was far too deep there. The river flowed over the lost treasure just as merrily as before. "What will I do?" the woodman cried. "I've lost my axe. How will I feed my children now?" Just as he finished speaking, up from the lake rose a beautiful lady. She was the water fairy of the river and came to the surface when she heard his sad voice. "What is your sorrow?" she asked kindly. The woodman told her about his trouble, and at once she sank beneath the surface and reappeared in a moment with an axe made of silver. "Is this the axe you lost?" she asked. The woodman thought of all the fine things he could buy for his children with that silver, but the axe wasn't his. So he shook his head and answered, "My axe was only made of steel." The water fairy laid the silver axe on the bank and sank into the river again. In a moment she rose and showed the woodman another axe. "Perhaps this one is yours?" she asked. The woodman looked. "Oh no," he replied. "This one is made of gold. It's worth many times more than mine." The water fairy laid the golden axe on the bank. Once again she sank, and up she rose. This time she held the missing axe. "That is mine!" the woodman cried. "That is surely my old axe." "It is yours," said the water fairy, "and so are these others now. They are gifts from the river because you have told the truth." And that evening, the woodman trudged home with all three axes on his shoulder, whistling happy as he thought of all the good things they would bring his family. On his way, he met another woodman. "Oh, where did you get such nice axes from?" asked the other woodman, so amazed. After the first woodman told all about his good fortune story, the second woodman ran to the riverbank and threw his axe in the water and started crying out loud. The water fairy of the river came to the surface when she heard the cry. "What is your sorrow?" she asked kindly. "My axe slid down the bank into the river, and I can't find it," replied the woodman. The water fairy sank beneath the surface and reappeared in a moment with an axe made of gold in her hand. "Is this the axe you've lost?" she asked. "Yes! Oh, thank you, water fairy! This is my axe!" The water fairy was upset with his dishonesty. She threw the golden axe back in the water and said, "You are a corrupt and deceptive man. Go find your axe that you threw in the water with your own hand, and also remember what I am telling you so you can tell others. For man and life, honesty is above gold."
The end.
Well, junior scholars, I hope you enjoyed that wonderful story sent in by Miss Andrea. And thank you, Miss Andrea, so much for translating that for us and sending it in. Junior scholars, I don't have much more to add. For man and life, honesty is above gold. That's all for this time. I am Sir Bradley Hasse. Be brave, be loyal, and speak the truth. Now, for you parents out there, I want you to understand why we are doing this, what we are trying to achieve, and how you can help us. This is a rescue operation to preserve the classics and the wisdom within before it is lost forever. Our goal is to inspire children with a love of good reading by safeguarding and breathing new life into the greatest stories in history, and empower you, the parents, with a resource you can trust to enrich your child's mind and spirit. We don't want these stories and the wisdom within to be forgotten, so our children don't have to learn these lessons on their own. The most important thing you can do for us is to spread the message and tell others about these stories and what we are doing. If you want to donate, we would love that as well. My promise is that 100% of donations will go to building the impact and quality of the Junior Classics. If you have feedback and thoughts on how we can do things better, please send an email to juniorclassicspodcast@gmail.com.
Thanks for listening to the Junior Classic.